Well, it's Pete the Gadget Guy and I'm back because this is the second part of the tour of some of the latest functions you'll find on a DSLR camera. Make sure you've watched part one, otherwise this section is unlikely to make all that much sense. A feature found in many digital compact cameras today, but starting to appear in some digital SLRs, is face detection mode. This function means that the camera detects faces in a scene and then automatically focuses and optimizes exposure, and if needed activates the flash to ensure the exposure for the face overrides the average settings for a particular scene. The technology can be effective when taking pictures of large groups, when a person is in the distance, or when the subject moves into the frame. Generally, the face detection software also uses face tracking, so if the face moves, the camera will stay focused on it and adjusts exposure appropriately. It's also effective when photographing people in direct sunlight, when the LCD is difficult to see. The tracking function in some digital cameras allows you to manually give priority to a single face. This is ideal when you wish to concentrate on a single person in a crowd. This is a hot topic when it comes to digital cameras: optical and digital image stabilization. They help produce clear, blur-free images by reducing the effects of camera shake when hand-holding a digital camera. Now, there are two schools of thought about image stabilization in digital SLRs. The first will insist it's a must-have, while others will point out that film-based SLR photographers got by quite successfully for years without it. In digital SLRs, there are two different types of stabilization. It can be built into the camera body. This is digital image stabilization and works in conjunction with the sensor, or it can be built into the camera's lens. This is optical image stabilization and works in conjunction with the lens's optics. Camera body or digital image stabilization is found in cameras made by Sony, Pentax, Samsung, Panasonic's Lumix and Olympus. Lens stabilization is found in cameras made by Canon and Nikon. Canon calls this technology image stabilization, or IS, while Nikon uses the term vibration reduction, or VR. This means that if you want stabilization for a Canon or Nikon digital SLR, you'll have to buy a special lens that's labelled IS or VR. You'll pay a premium for this since lenses with stabilization cost quite a bit more than non-stabilized lens alternatives. My personal view is that optical image stabilization is currently superior to digital image stabilization. On the stabilized body side of the equation, the stabilization works with any lens that is compatible with the camera. Different manufacturers call the stabilized body function different names, such as sensor shift stabilization, shake reduction, and super steady shot. It's important to understand a critical point about either forms of stabilization. It's really only relevant to low light photography and not photography of scenes with fast moving subjects. When you're dealing with a fast moving subject, the only thing that's going to make your photo reproduce clearly is a faster shutter speed. This is because stabilization simply has no influence on shutter speed. However, stabilization can make a huge difference when you're trying to take photos of dimly lit scenes without a flash or a tripod. Most recently released digital SLRs will record images in both a compressed JPEG format or what is known as RAW file format. Put simply, a RAW file format image is digital photography's equivalent of a negative in film photography. It contains all the original picture detail, the untouched raw pixel information straight from the digital camera's sensor. The RAW format allows far more flexibility in post-production. When shooting RAW, no processing is done in the camera to the file. As a result, the photographer has total control over adjustments to elements such as sharpening or white balance, among others, when editing a RAW file. The RAW format, considered essential by professionals and serious photographers, is still not widely used by everyday photographers. At this time, RAW files cannot be opened with every image editing program and can take quite a deal longer to process when editing than JPEG files. Some digital SLRs have an option to take both RAW and JPEG images simultaneously. You'll find a JPEG plus RAW setting in the setup menu, usually in the quality option. If you generally prefer to shoot JPEGs only, consider shooting JPEG plus RAW for special events or when lighting is difficult. This will allow you to perform enhanced image editing if needed. Well, that's our update on what's currently available. Keep checking back because I'll be covering all the new features and functions in digital SLRs in the future.